So we're here together right now, Dr. Winters, and I cannot express the gratitude that I have in my heart for you being here. We're 6 feet apart.
Yes.
We've been given recommendations on how to do this, and we both felt that it was really important to speak to what's going on right now in our country, but also to build the toolbox for everyone that's at home and all the anxiety and fear that people are experiencing, so that we have this toolbox that we can then rely on. And so I really wanted to come to you and have this incredible opportunity to speak with you about what are some of the keys in your toolbox as it relates to exercise and really strengthening our immune health, our natural defenses.
Right, so thank you so much, Naomi, for having me. And yes, these are very scary times where people are afraid, and there's a lot of stress and anxiety around what is next with COVID-19. And I think it is really important that we really attempt to recenter and try to focus on our wellness and manage what we can. There's some things that are out of our control, but we do have control over certain things, and the choices that we make to be healthy, I think, are extraordinarily important, particularly at this time.
So Dr. Winters, tell us a little bit about your everyday life and what you're doing right now from an exercise perspective in particular, and also how that relates to our immune system.
Right, yes. So, well, we went exclusively online. So now I am working from home. Our entire family is at home, as most families are. My children are out of school and we are doing online lessons. So we try to build physical activity around our day. We have dogs, so we take our dogs out for a walk. I think it's very important. We have outdoor time. We'll go back into the backyard and make sure that we're walking. Walking is a wonderful form of exercise, particularly in times like this. We know that moderate intensity exercise is extremely important for immune function. In fact, really important, much better than being sedentary, much better than actually having a large intensity or volume of exercise. So we found that moderate intensity exercise is really our sweet spot with respect to immune function.
So when you say moderate intensity exercise, can you give us an overview of like how much time that is, what types of exercise that is?
Sure. Some examples would be a brisk walk, something where you're moving and you're getting your heart rate up, but you can still hold a conversation. So some of the activities that we're doing at my family are the walks, as I said, with the dogs, bicycling, skateboarding. My teenagers love to do that. We have dance parties, and I think outside is really important too. Being out in nature is very healthy.
Okay, so dance parties.
Yes.
I've seen you do your dance parties and I love it. Why is dancing so, like, what is a dance party and why is it so important?
Well, I think that exercise really is an amazing medicine. I think we have to find things that we enjoy. So Harvard School of Medicine just came out with recommendations to reduce stress and anxiety by doing yoga. If you like to do yoga, that's wonderful. We know that there are amazing health benefits with yoga. There's just a recent systematic review that mentions yoga with reducing inflammatory markers, so we can help improve inflammation not only with aerobic exercise, but also with yoga. But maybe yoga isn't your thing. So back to the dancing. It's something that needs to be fun, something that allows us to forget about what's going on for a moment, be active, move more, and feel better.
So this idea of just like moving, dancing, we know when we dance, we actually activate our endocannabinoid system, which is so interesting. You know, there's so much new data coming out about this powerful system within our body. We're also de-stressing when we're moving like that. And you're saying that it's also helping us to build our natural defenses and our immune system.
Absolutely, and also our feel-good hormones, endorphins are released, right? So when we are in chronic stress, we release cortisol, which is our stress hormone. And cortisol, we're not meant to have high levels of cortisol pumping through our systems. We're not meant to be in that sympathetic overdrive constantly. It wreaks metabolic havoc, it wreaks cardiovascular havoc on our bodies. Moving allows us to have our feel-good hormones and allows us to kind of decompress, relax and reduce that stress.
We were talking this morning, just before we got on camera, a bit about, like, I left my phone at home before I came here. And you were talking a little bit about you left your purse.
I did.
What is that? Is that our cortisol just getting out of control?
I think what happens is our minds are so preoccupied with how we're going to manage each hour and day rather than what we normally do. And that might throw us off for a minute, but what it did to, it sounds like you and me as well this morning, is it really threw me off and I started to get anxious and my mind started to race into various things. And I think we have to be able to catch ourselves and realize that we're going to have these moments more so than we have in the past, but we need to kind of recollect and refocus and get back on track.
So you talked about the systematic review that was done on yoga.
Right.
I think that's just fascinating. A systematic review is when there are many clinical studies that are culminated and sort of put forth so you have this big perspective. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so these would be a culmination of randomized controlled trials. So a systematic review is our highest level of evidence that we have in research. And so it really does give us a good snapshot of the literature, the research related to a certain topic. So I think that's pretty profound. And we see this with exercise in a number of levels, not only physiological, but psychological benefits as well.
This idea of really, like the psychological benefits that come from the reduction, perhaps in the inflammation when you're doing yoga.
Right.
So on a daily basis, you would do it consistently.
Yes.
How long would you be doing that yoga to get those kind of results?
Well, as you said, it would have to be something that's consistent, right? Something over time. However, you get immediate benefits from exercise every time that you participate.
Really?
Yes.
One time you get immediate benefit.
You do with respect to health. It's one of the amazing things that you can do every day and right in that moment, and you will have acute benefits. And then over time, we see those chronic benefits with respect to moving more and sitting less.
You developed this concept that's gone nationwide of exercise is medicine. What is that? Why did you do that?
Right, so Exercise is Medicine started in 2007. Dr. Bob Salas, who was the president of the American College of Sports Medicine at the time, he is a primary care physician at Kaiser Permanente in California. And he would see his patients and he would see that they weren't moving enough and that it was having terrible ramifications. And so he created this now global movement to monitor physical activity as a vital sign. So clinicians would do this, and then the important piece beyond that is referring them to a qualified health fitness professional for exercise prescription. So you find at-risk individuals, and those would be those who don't meet the current physical activity recommendations. Which is accumulating at least 150 minutes or more of moderate intensity activity per week. So that's equivalent to about 30 minutes 5 times a week. And that would be for an average adult. There are other recommendations for children, those who are obese, and other special populations. And so taking this from the clinic to the field where we have our health fitness professionals who then can exact that exercise prescription and help someone reduce health risk and improve health outcome. And so what I did was I was tasked at a university level, like I am now at JU, with implementing health initiatives. And I thought this was a wonderful platform on a university campus. So I met with Dr. Salas, and we had conversations, and we launched Exercise is Medicine on campus in 2009. So we just celebrated our 10th year anniversary. We now have over 280 registered institutions worldwide.
Incredible.
So this is a global initiative, and it's so exciting. We're going to be recognizing 166 institutions for their work in helping people to move more and creating this culture of daily movement.
I love that. These 30 minutes of exercise, or 150 minutes during the week, so it's 30 minutes a day. That could be a brisk walk.
Absolutely.
That could be a dance party.
Absolutely.
That could be yoga.
Yes.
Okay, what
Yes.
else?
Well,
Tell
we
us
talk
more.
about really that 30 minutes is aerobic type
Okay.
activity, but we also know that resistance training or strength training is important as well, particularly as we get older. So there are recommendations for that as well. But many activities that you can do, as long as it gets your heart rate up for even a brief period of time, is important.
So when you say up, I know for my own heart rate, like different levels that I want it to be at. Give us some guidelines here.
So again, like I mentioned, you want to be at an intensity where you can have a conversation. You may not be able to sing. Right? So that's kind of the rule of thumb with respect to intensity, that you are doing movement that elicits the large muscle groups and provides those cardiovascular benefits.
Do you find that when people get stressed, when the cortisol is up higher, that we tend to exercise less? Are there any stats or research around that?
Well, I think that we tend to potentially exercise less and then participate in other unhealthy or risky behaviors with respect to maybe not making good nutritional choices, maybe using other substances to try to reduce the stress or anxiety. And so I think the hardest part when you're feeling anxious or stressed with respect to exercise is just getting out the door. So oftentimes people will tell us that once they got out, once they started, then they realized and they felt so much better. And again, looking at those psychological benefits, we do know from our evidence that exercise can be as effective as Prozac or behavioral therapy for depression and potentially even anxiety. Now, nobody's saying people should go off those medications, but what a powerful drug this thing called exercise is, right?
Wow, exercise as medicine is an incredible concept, and the thought that using it one time, you're already starting to get the benefits. That's very empowering. So many people are talking about, the challenges with not having access to our regular ways of exercising. But I like so much what you're saying about sort of like just getting a little bit creative, doing it every day, 30 minutes, getting outside. You were talking about your adorable little dog.
Yes, we have a 7-month-old puppy and a 10-year-old dog, and we walk them every day. But I'll tell you, I am very impressed with the fitness industry. They have really rallied due to these unprecedented times, and a lot of my colleagues and friends and other professionals are offering free virtual classes. They're offering reduced cost strength training or resistance training regimens, and then they're donating the money to food banks here locally in Jacksonville. There are a number of resources. They've really rallied together to try to help people be healthier. And in these times, it's important more than ever to take care of ourselves.
What does that mean to you? What is taking care of ourselves at this time? What kind of self-care should we be thinking about?
Well, I think particularly we as women, we are not only the caregivers, but we sort of help to monitor, set the tone oftentimes in our homes and out in the community. And I think really taking care of ourselves and building in time. I know, for example, my children have their lessons that they need to do every day, and we have brain breaks where we get up and we move and we wiggle and we do jumping jacks, or we run around the house 2 times just so that we have that break. I think having your own space as well. I know a lot of my colleagues and I, we're working from home, our children are at home, perhaps our spouses are at home, and trying to make sure that everybody has their space so that we're not climbing on top of one another and getting anxious that way. I think taking care of ourselves is very important because we spend a lot of time making sure everyone else is taken care of, making sure we have everything that we need in the home in case we have to be in for longer periods of time. But really having those self-checks about how am I feeling? Am I taking care of myself? Am I doing my deep breathing? And for me, I'm a problem solver and I'm high energy. And so I have to calm myself down so that I don't get anxious.
Right.
Because that's something that I think is palpable. So if mom is calmer and mom can help everybody else, I think it's really a good thing.
So creating your own space, what does that look like for you personally?
Where everyone has their own space to do their work, where everyone has their own time carved out. So discussing with your spouse or your significant other or your children even, okay, time together, time alone, time to focus, time to work. I think all of those are important, right? So not only that we maintain our safe distance outside, but that we are okay internally as well. Because I think that's what happens. People avoid that, or they don't think about how they're feeling, and they're just trying to survive.
So thinking about how you're feeling as you're feeling it, using deep breath work, tell us a little bit about the breathing techniques maybe that potentially you use as part of your exercise routines, or?
Right. For me, it's about calming. It's about calming my sympathetic drive.
Yeah.
It's a way for me to be grounded. And so I try to use this technique quite often, and I try to instill it in my children if they start to get really anxious or upset about something. And so really it's quite simple. It's usually used in meditation, where you would breathe in to the count of 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4, hold the breath, and then exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold the breath. I do this about 5 to 10 times. Just when I'm feeling like I need to calm down a bit, and I think it's really helpful. I like to run. Running is wonderful. I think it's great stress relief. I do a lot of my problem solving. It's something that you can do and still maintain social distancing outside. So I think that's important as well. But some people don't like running. Again, it goes back to what helps you, what do you enjoy, and how can you work that into this time?
And taking the time for each and every one of us, we have more time now, right? We're not driving around, we're not doing so many of the things that would occupy our time. Taking that time to think about, oh, okay, what makes me feel really good? What helps me to upregulate my parasympathetic nervous system versus the sympathetic, which is that fight or flight, right? So the rest and digest is the upregulation of the parasympathetic nervous system, and you're talking about dance, you're talking about running. You know these things about you. This is almost an opportunity for us to understand ourselves better, and what are the triggers that really help us to feel calm in that place of rest and digest.
I think that's so important, and as you were saying that, it made me think, to reconnect with ourselves, because oftentimes people might be binge watching now, right? So they might be doing sedentary behaviors, or they are keeping up with the news and being very concerned and having psychological stress that way, right? So again, stepping back from that technology, stepping back from, of course, keep yourself informed. That's very important. But don't let it overrun your day. I had to catch myself a number of times when you want to keep up with the latest news, but at the same time, 2 hours have gone by, and you're sitting there watching the news, and just things are relaying over and over again, and sort of, again, stepping back, reconnecting, and figuring out, okay, how am I going to make the best of this situation?
Right. Focusing on oneself, that state of rest and digest. There's so many ways really to help your body get into that place. When we are doing that moderate exercise, do you ever find that, like if you are focusing on your breath work while you're exercising, or making sure you have a certain amount of hydration, can you sort of like fill out really what exercise as medicine is? I understand the 150 minutes, but I'm looking for some of the other, like you've got your water right here.
I do.
I want to know like how much water you drink a day. How does hydration sort of play into this?
Hydration, you're right, is absolutely key. From a physiological standpoint, from many standpoints. Overall health is really important, and taking care of yourself. So you're right, hydration is important, moving enough is important, and also when we look at, even if it's not your 30 minutes a day, when you look at 24-hour energy expenditure, how active are you throughout the day? There's evidence to suggest that you can meet the current recommendations and still be at risk for chronic disease, because how are you spending the other 23 and a half hours? So are you sitting at a computer? Are you sitting on your other devices? Are you watching TV? Are you doing many sedentary activities? Really just getting up and moving throughout the day is important, and being cognizant of that. I have my watch that tells me if I've been sitting for too long, and it reminds me, would you like to do torso twists? Would you like to do something about that? Sleep is important.
Would you like to do torso twist?
Would you like to, yes, that's what my literally.
So show us a torso twist.
Yes, so, and it literally, it shows you, and so you get up and you do a torso twist.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to do 10, and then you can sit back down. But even in our department meetings, Dr. Hausenblas, you'll be speaking with, she's been a wonderful motivator to stand. So we will be in a meeting and we'll get up and we'll stand, and it's not socially unacceptable to walk around at these meetings, and I think creating that understanding and culture that movement is important.
I had a meeting with her the other day, and we did a walking meeting, and we walked for an hour and a half, or however long we walked for, an hour to an hour and a half, and it was so great, because obviously we were so invigorated and our minds were so open, and we were in this beautiful natural park where we could experience nature. You know, it was really, really enjoyable. So we have in many ways learned how to bring movement into our workplace. And you see people with standing desks, it's everywhere, you know. Now that we're homebound, it's almost as though we need to like relearn movement, reprogram. So tell us more about that.
Well, I think, again, like we would tell people ordinarily, schedule it into your day. When we do our brain breaks with my children, but your own breaks. Schedule a time to go out for a walk. Schedule a time to just move more, maybe even stretch, deep breathing, meditation. But it has to be scheduled, I believe, or otherwise it typically goes by the wayside and we don't make it a priority. So making it a priority like we would our daily shower or brushing our teeth is, I think, helpful when we consider building that into our day. Having a schedule is very important, I think, for many reasons, because if people aren't used to working from home, there could be many distractions. Some people work better at home, some people don't. That's why I think carving out your own space and time for activities, for self-care, and for work and childcare or other obligations is very important.
Very important. So this idea of like really taking the time to look at the situation that you may be in at this point in time, knowing that there's so many different distractions, and prioritizing yourself.
Yes.
You come from Pittsburgh, and I know one of our mutual heroes comes from Pittsburgh. Tell us a little bit.
Yes. So I went to graduate school at Pittsburgh and spent 23 years of my life there before I moved down here to Jacksonville, originally from the southeastern part of the state of Pennsylvania. And yes, Pittsburgh is home to Fred Rogers, and I got to learn so much more about him living in Pittsburgh. And I think now, more than ever, some of his inspirational quotes and his messages are really important for everyone to hear. And I don't think many people know Fred Rogers. Maybe they've seen the latest movie with Tom Hanks, but there's particularly a saying that he said that his mother told him in times like this, like we're experiencing with COVID-19, look for the helpers. And I think that's so profound and so important, because we get so caught up in our own stress and troubles, and I think it's really important to look to the people that are helping and to understand that there is hope and that all things do pass.
Oh, that's really beautiful. Dr. Winters, you are such an inspiration, I mean, to so many people all over. The research that you do, the review of the other research, and really, you know, the commitment that you have to your children, to your family, to your students, to this global community of exercise as medicine is profound. And thank you for sharing with us these very important techniques and strategies that we can incorporate into our own lives. Do you have anything that you would want to share, just sort of like as a last note, about immunity and how we strengthen it with exercise? I know you've done, you know, you've studied that, the combination of the two.
Right. So again, I would say make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Make sure that you are participating in moderate intensity activities. This is what our exercise immunology experts tell us, that you're doing things that you enjoy and that you're getting out in nature during these times, and that we will get through this together. I think we need to help one another, but also be very respectful of social distancing and making sure that we do flatten the curve, that we make sure that we're doing our part personally and collectively to contain this and get past this. Thank you so much for having me. You are an inspiration as well, and thank you for bringing wonderful information to the public. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.